I have an appointment with my primary coming up in a few weeks, so I had to go out and get my blood work prior to the appointment. Hello, I'm Charles, and I'm also known as the Round Mound of Zepbound. Welcome. Now, personally, I think blood work is a very important tool on this journey. I think it is important to get your results prior to starting your GLP-1 medication and to continue to get it as a monitoring tool as you continue your journey. Surprisingly, it isn't a mandatory requirement for all providers or even all insurance companies. At a minimum, you want a comprehensive metabolic panel, a complete blood count, a lipid panel, and an A1C at the start to establish your baseline. You may also want to ask your doctor for a renal function test and a thyroid function test. Now, these are all the tests that my primary has ordered to me throughout, and it has been interesting to see the change over time, especially with my lipid panel numbers, which have been a struggle for me for years. At various points in my fight with obesity, I've been on blood pressure meds and or statins. Now, I wasn't on them at the time that I started Zepbound. I think I was last on them when right before I had my gastric sleeve. However, my primary had talked about putting me on them at the start of my journey, and I was able to convince her to wait to see how Zepbound managed my cholesterol and my blood pressure. Let's go over my results. I will highlight the 5 things that were red at the start of my GLP-1 journey. What my highest ever recorded levels were, if available, and how they have changed over the course of my journey. I also got some unexpected results on this most recent test that were a little concerning. I will talk about those things at the end. Let's start with my A1C. Prior to starting Zepbound, my A1C was at 5.7, which put me right in the pre-diabetic range. Now, my current A1C was measured at 5.1, so I am back into the green. My highest measured A1C ever was 6.1 back in 2010. That's the highest number that I could find on my records. My A1C measurement over the course of this journey has been 5.7 in January 2024, 5.2 in May of 2024, so it instantly got me out of the pre-diabetic range, 5.3 in October of 2024, and now 5.1 in April of 2025. And I believe a study has shown, I believe it was Zepbound, I'm not sure which one, but it has shown that 94% of those with pre-diabetes were prevented from advancing to full-blown diabetes with the help of this medication. Next up is my HDL cholesterol. My HDL, which is the good cholesterol, was measured at 39 at the start of my journey. For reference, you want this number to be equal to or greater than 40. So I was just below that minimum number. High HDL levels may lower the risk of heart disease or stroke. And my newest HDL number is now at 60. What an improvement. Now, my lowest HDL number was 27. That was back in 2015. If you were to chart my HDL number over the course of this journey, it was 39 in January 2024, 46 in May of 2024, 55 in October of 2024, and 60 in April of 2025. Next up is my LDL cholesterol. LDL is known as the bad cholesterol. Having a high LDL number can lead to plaque buildup in the arteries, which increases the risk of heart disease and or stroke. This number took the longest to get into the green, but I finally did it. This is a number that you want to be less than 100. My number prior to starting Zepbound was 154, and it is now at 86. My highest number was 169 in 2019. Now, charting this number over the course of my journey would show 154 in January 2024, 154 in May, 140 in October, and now 86 in April of 2025. Next up, we have triglycerides. Triglycerides are a fat that the body stores and uses as energy. Your body converts excess calories into triglycerides. Now, you want this number to be less than 150. Again, the higher your triglyceride number, the higher the risk of heart disease and or stroke. Now, before I started Zepbound, my number was 324. It is now down to 57. That's crazy, especially considering my highest number was 553 back in 2015. And I never remember this number being in a normal range at all, period. Not once since I started this journey, going back to when I started the process of getting the lap band. And I think that was in 2009. So from 2009 up until I started Zepbound, this number has never, ever been in a normal range. And I think that's the same for my HDL and my LDL as well. My lipid panels were just horrible as long as I can remember getting blood work done, regardless of the journey, whether it was my bariatric journey or my GLP-1 journey. And now it's at 57. Now, if you consider my 553 back in 2015, with this number, my high LDL number, my stage 2 hypertension, my low HDL number, and my sleep apnea, I was fast tracking myself to a stroke or a heart attack. And I truly believe that this medication has allowed me to extend my life, period. Lastly is my total cholesterol. Now, total cholesterol is the total amount of cholesterol circulating in your blood. It is a measurement of all three lipids, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. You want this number to be under 200. Now, my recent number is finally under 200, coming in at 160. Now, my highest number was 249 back in 2019. Anything over 240 is high or dangerous. Again, putting you at risk for heart attack and or stroke. My measurement over the course of my journey has been 244 in January 2024, 224 in May 2024, 211 in October 2024, and now I'm at 160 in April 2025. Overall, on my blood work and my urinalysis, my entire lipid panel was green. My urinalysis was green. My vitamin D test was green. My hemoglobin A1C was green. My thyroid test was green. My urinary albumin test was green. Everything in my comprehensive metabolic panel was green except for one thing. Everything in my complete blood count was green except for one thing. Now, for my comprehensive metabolic panel, my bilirubin came back slightly out of range. It was slightly elevated. The high point for the reference range is 1.2, and my number was at 1.3, so just slightly above. Now, this is the second test in a row where that number was at 1.3. It was the same back in October of 2024. And I talked to my primary at the time after that last test, and she wasn't concerned about it. She stated it wasn't high enough for it to be concerning, and we would just monitor it. She did note that different labs would put the max reference range at 1.3, so considering that, I would still be within range. So thankfully, it didn't increase, but I'm super sensitive to these things right now because what it could potentially mean. High bilirubin numbers could indicate cancers impacting the liver, pancreas, or bile duct. So I will just be watching it and talk to her again when I have my appointment in a few weeks and just see how things go. I'm not overly concerned about it at this point, considering my discussion with her last time and where it is, because it's just slightly elevated. It's not something too concerning. Now, the concerning issue was in my complete blood count, and that was my absolute lymphocyte numbers. That number was low. The bottom of the reference range is 850, and I'm at 676. Now, a lymphocyte is a type of white blood cell that helps your immune system. And absolute lymphocytes tells you the number of lymphocytes in your blood instead of the percentage of the total white blood cells. It is used as an indicator for your immune health. So a low number would indicate that your immune health is compromised or could be compromised. This would be the case for an autoimmune disease or cancers like leukemia or lymphoma. Again, I'm highly sensitive to this number because what it could mean. And doing some Googling, it seems like there's only a few main causes for this, which is, autoimmune disease, cancers, specific type of cancers like leukemia or lymphoma, chemotherapy or radiation. And I found that out and while doing that Google search about absolute lymphocytes and external beam radiation to treat prostate cancer. And I was talking to my wife about it. She mentioned that she has an autoimmune disease, lupus. And she mentioned that her absolute lymphocyte number was like 970 something. And so for me to be at 676, that's really setting off alarm bells. And when I Googled it kind of set my mind at ease because it did say that radiation therapy, such as the kind for prostate cancer, external beam radiation, could kill off the white blood cells. It was stated that it is a common side effect for prostate cancer radiation therapy, and it is called radiation-induced lymphopenia. And I thought to myself, this makes sense, but I will mention it to the oncologist because I meet with her every Tuesday as I'm going through my treatment. And she said because they aren't doing any radiation that would impact bone marrow, she doesn't see it as the cause for the drop, which really concerned me if she's saying that. So, I mentioned that my numbers have been high previously. For example, it was 2295 in 2021. It was 2013 and 2022, 1617 in February of 2024, 1612 in May of 2024, and 1800 during my last test, which is October 24. And she was adamant that it wasn't the cause, so I went home and I Googled it again just to make sure that I wasn't making things up. I did some further research into to read some more resources and whatnot, and it all came back to the same thing. So I will talk to my primary about it. I believe it is radiation-induced, but because of my recent cancer diagnosis, I'm also a little bit concerned. I'm not trying to think about it too much. I'm like 99.9% sure that this is radiation-induced. I'm just trying to keep my mind away from it. I don't want to deal with any of that. I'm not claiming any of that. I'm 3 treatments away from finishing my radiation therapy, and I'm sure that my primary will order another blood test in a few months post-radiation, just to see how the numbers have rebounded. So we'll see how that goes. I'm sure that they're going to bounce back up. So that's what I'm claiming. So fingers crossed. All things considered, it was a great report. Now I just have to maintain those things. And I also want to specify that while this medication is a wonderful thing, helping turn around health markers and whatnot, I also made sure that I was doing my part by working out and increasing my cardiovascular health. Additionally, this helped, the working out helped contribute to my weight loss in combination with the medication. And the working out also helped recomposition my body while holding on to critical muscle mass, which also benefits my overall health. So I just don't want to give all the credit to the medication. I had a part of this as well. It was just a tool. It was a key that unlocked the door that I still had to run through. This is my report on my blood work. If you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell. And as always, I will see you down in the comments. I hope you all have a great week. And look out for my update. I owe you a 3-week update this weekend. So be on the lookout for that. Hope you all have a great weekend. And I will talk to you later. Bye.